Previously on Family Guy.
A Tau Empire list, which is pretty exciting to see them go 6-0. However, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the list and a lot of calls of cheating from the community and the players who played against this player. We'll talk about that in a video later this week. What's up, folks? Welcome back to TacticalTortoise. My name is Trevi, and it's been a while since we've had some nice, strong, steaming, citrusy tea to sip on this channel. There's been some light toilet dicing happening in the community, but nothing too exciting. I do think a lot of that has to do with the newfound popularity of competitive 40k, its health in late 9th and early 10th edition, and the newfound access with resources like Wikipedia and the new 40k app to rules resources, so players can actually check each other on rules mistakes and catch rampant scandals before they become too extreme. So it's been a while since we've had a crazy cheating scandal, whereas in late 8th edition, early 9th edition, those things felt like they happened every week. It's been a little while since one hit the modern competitive community, but that is what happened this past weekend. So sit back, grab a delicious tea of your own, remember to subscribe to the channel, and let's break down exactly what happened, because oh boy, this foul concoction of spices and filth is some of the most intense tea that we've had on this channel in a while. We've got everything in this one: dice manipulation, potentially loaded dice, list errors, and blatant mechanical cheating for a player undefeated at a recent Supermajor trying to rep an underrepresented faction. The event in question is the Lone Star Open Supermajor, a 6-round, 214-player event run by none other than Frontline Gaming. The event was so large that it actually had multiple undefeated players, including some that I've talked about on the channel before: Ben Urich with Eldari and Eric Tat with GSC, whose list I covered on my undefeated list recap video on Tuesday. But nestled in there was one more 6-0 player that I touched on briefly: Will Abelez with Tau Empire. A pretty interesting result given that Tau Empire isn't really performing that well at the moment. So going 6-0 at a Supermajor is an incredibly impressive achievement. So players decided to dive into Will's list and try to excavate the secret technology that has allowed him to achieve success. And immediately, the alarm bells began ringing. Looking down through the list, we can notice that there is a Firesight team, that is the little marker light equipped guy with his series of sniper drones, a lone operative character who's able to guide things from being unshootable and has a couple precision weapons to boot, equipped with the enhancement through Unity Devastation. Tau Empire units can essentially act as spotters for other units. When you go to shoot with an Empire unit, you can select another unit that hasn't observed for anyone that phase and grant the unit shooting +1 to hit, and sometimes some other benefits depending on the turn it is and the data sheets involved, against a single enemy unit, also giving them a debuff if they target a unit that isn't being observed on. So the role of, through Unity Devastation, is to make a unit an excellent observer unit, allowing them to not only grant +1 to hit, potential sustained hits, but then also lethal hits to the unit that they're spotting for. There is an important clause in this section, however. The second sentence of the ability specifies that the model must be leading a unit, meaning it's only actually useful on models with the leader ability. Firesight Marksman can't join units, so this enhancement, while you can technically upgrade him with it, doesn't do anything at all. Now, to be fair, this is a potentially easily explainable mistake. It's a small clause within an ability that should really also specify leader models only, so that you don't accidentally make this mistake. So while questions were raised, Will's opponents immediately started coming forward with stories of some of the most blatant and disrespectful cheating I've heard of in a really long time. Now, I want to preface this whole discussion by saying a lot of this is happening after the fact. I wasn't at the Lone Star Open, I didn't watch any of these games happen, nor were any of Will's games streamed. Namely because the streamer who was present at the event refused to put him on stream because of his packed conduct on stream. That doesn't raise an additional red flag, I don't know what will. But fortunately for all of us, Will's round 5 semifinals opponent, Micah, was kind enough to get in touch with a bunch of his opponents, compile both his and their experience experiences and actually got in touch with me to send me some details. So we do have a primary source on these, but again, keep in mind that we are a few days removed from the actual events. So what exactly was being played wrong in addition to this one enhancement? First off, there were some purported statistical anomalies. Movement was added to battlesuits like the Ghost Keel and Riptide. The Ghost Keel and Riptide battlesuits were both played as scouts. It does make a little bit of sense for the Ghost Keel, which is a big infiltrator, but the Riptide battlesuit is like a 3-story war machine. Having a scout move on that would be shocking. He played his Fire Warrior strike team as 3+ ballistic skill rather than their normal 4+. That again can be a potentially easy mistake to make given that the Breacher Fire Warrior team is actually base 3+ ballistic skill, but the regular strike team is not. So a little bit confusing, but maybe read your cards. Playing the guided effect that gives +1 to hit that we just discussed as also granting rerolls to hit, which is kind of insane. Using the benefit of being guided for units that were also observing, which is definitely against the rules and super not how that ability works, and absolutely messing up his entry for broadsides. Now, if we take a look at the broadside battlesuit team in Will's submitted list on the event page, we can see that each broadside battlesuit is being equipped with twin plasma rifles, rail rifles, and a single seeker missile. The seeker missile being the one-shot, high-strength, high-damage hunter-killer equivalent missile that broadsides and many Tau vehicles are able to equip. However, in each of these games, Will played these as either being equipped with the twin plasma rifle as is described here, or smart missile systems, another indirect fire weapon that is available to broadsides, but isn't always played given the broadside's role as a direct fire support unit. So allegedly, Will would swap between either playing the smart missile systems if he needed high rate of fire indirect fire, or the plasma rifles that were actually printed on his list if he needed the high damage direct fire shooting. In addition, he also played the seeker missile systems totally wrong. The broadside battlesuit seeker missiles are a 3-shot twin-linked weapon, so they're low rate of fire, but they do get some rerolls to wound, which is nice. However, he played each individual seeker missile pod as a D6 blast weapon, firing 6d6 blast attacks from the 3-man broadside team, which is so wrong. I don't know what else to say about it. He was then using all of these misplayed rolls together, firing a massive number of indirect fire smart missiles, using lethal hits from the Firesight marksman who should not have had that enhancement to begin with, then getting rerolls to hit from misplaying the guided rule and having this unit absolutely devastate high volume infantry units on the other side of the table. You basically have to misplay every single roll at every stage of the sequence in order for this to work as effectively as it did. On top of that, there were also some allegations of dice manipulation. And this was corroborated not only by Micah, but also some of his other opponents. Apparently, in the role to deploy and go first, both roles that are very important for Tau, and especially Tau that randomly have a unit of Desolator Marines inside piloting their broadside battlesuits, the role to go first is very important because he can screen out enemy forward deployers with his Ghost Keel battlesuit, apparently also scout move it, which is totally against the rules, and then also just indirect fire his opponent into oblivion on the top of the first turn. How lucky it is then that he allegedly rolled a 6 for all of these rolls in every one of his games, at least that was recorded over the course of the weekend. Apparently a cup was used to roll the dice that was then slammed down on the table, and a 6 was rolled, whether or not that's a manipulation of the dice within the cup or it's just a fake dice and he's using a cup to obfuscate the fact that it might be a trick die. But that was reported not only by Micah but also some of his other opponents over the course of the weekend. Absolutely foul.
You're a liar.
Now, the scale of misplay in this instance is absolutely wild. It's a level of skullduggery I don't know I've ever seen in a 40k game before. There's sometimes misplaying rules where you and your opponent are playing a new edition and don't know what's going on, and then there's this where you apparently cheat at almost literally every step of the game. But the worst part of it is that it wasn't wholly unexpected. Apparently, this player has been banned from the local Texas competitive circuit. Several players have also come out elsewhere and described their previous experiences playing with him, all of which sound absolutely miserable. But the Lone Star Open, an FLG event, not a local Texas event, didn't take that into account. And allegedly, the event organizers were warned about this player, about his conduct in past events, and his currently banned status in the local circuit, but they allowed him to purchase a ticket and attend the event anyway. Now, apparently over the course of the weekend, some of these infractions were reported to the event judges, but the Lone Star Open was wildly understaffed, with only 3 judges for the 214 players. That's 1 judge for every just about 71 players, which is not a great proportion. And the judges were so overworked that information between them wasn't shared and repeat offenses weren't recorded. Judging for 40k is tough, and especially finding judges for 40k is difficult. You have to find someone who not only possesses a modicum of understanding of the rules, and in 10th edition that is tough because the rules are wildly complicated, but you also have to find somebody who is willing to give up their entire weekend and most likely front themselves at least a little bit for some travel expenses in order to assist a bunch of nerds playing a tabletop game. Not everyone is willing to do that, and not all events pay their judges, or at least not pay them enough for giving up an entire weekend to travel and work for the tournament. But at the very least, a card system that records warnings and infractions for players has to be implemented in events this big. It just has to be in place and enforced for the small number of judges to do their jobs. If a player like this had judges called on him, but none of that was recorded, and repeat infractions weren't then punished, that is just unacceptable. Now, retroactively, Lone Star Open has revoked Will's standing at the event and placed him in last place, so at least he's not getting ITC points from his finish. But really, that doesn't even come close to resolving the damage that his cheating inflicted on the event. As Micah said to me, the whole top 20 of the event probably looks very different without his impact, and he robbed many upstanding, well-meaning competitive players of the chance to compete for themselves and rep their factions. Not to mention the fact that he's likely ruined the weekend's experience for at least 6 players that he played against who devoted their time to practicing, painting their armies, traveling to the tournament, and finally playing, and for their hard work got to play with this utter knucklehead. Now, in the past, I've been of 2 minds when calling out cheaters publicly, especially that given Warhammer 40k is a game about toy soldiers, and public callouts, especially on the internet, have the potential to reflect on their personal lives in a way that could be dangerous. But maybe the recent drought of cheating scandals has hardened my heart against the criminals of the Warhammer 40,000 community, and especially since competitive 40k is in such a fragile state right now, not only with the influx of new players, but also returning players from past editions who are unfamiliar with the overly complex rules of the new edition and are liable to run into bullies like Will who prey on their ignorance. And at the end of the day, that's just not acceptable, and that's not a way for any community to conduct itself. So, cheaters like this need to be run out of the community, full stop. Higher standards of player conduct need to be upheld by competitive events, especially Frontline Gaming, who is the front line of competitive play, at least in the US, and harsher penalties and potential lifetime bans to event circuits need to be put into place more consistently to prevent cheaters like this from being able to bounce around different events and continue their chicanery. In addition, circuits also need to respect each other's ban lists when enforcing these rules. Even if you are banned in a circuit, it should also at least reflect on you in other circuits, because none of this works if players can just move to a different format and no one knows who they are. If we can continue to share a global ban document, we can at least put players on warning who are banned in certain circuits when they move to other circuits, and put them on thin ice to be removed from events if they decide to cheat in the future. So in my mind, there's not really any ambiguity anymore. Players who cheat in the way described in this video should never be allowed to play in a Warhammer 40k event again. It's disgusting, it's deleterious to the community, and I won't stand for it. So let me know down in the comment section what you think about this scandal. Is the community too harsh on Will in this case, or is it as bad as it looks? And what steps can we in our local communities do to try to counteract this kind of bully play? Big thanks to Micah as well for assembling all of this information together and bringing it to me. It's much better to have primary sources when talking about this stuff and not just having to go off of the general reactions from the community on social media. Big thanks as well to everybody who supports the channel, either over on Patreon at patreon.com/TacticalTortoise, YouTube channel members, and Twitch subscribers. All you people are great and I love you. Remember to keep it classy, folks, and have happy wargaming.